My parents shattered a champagne bottle over my head because I wouldn't give them my condo, but that wasn't the moment I broke. That came later when I realized they'd already erased me from every family photo. Some wounds don't bleed until you see the empty space where you should have been remembered. Before we dive in, where are you listening from right now? What's your story? Drop it in the comments, because this one, it doesn't go where you think. It was a Sunday evening in San Antonio, the kind of soft, honey-colored twilight that makes even cul-de-sacs feel like postcards. I remember pulling up slow, easing my little Toyota into a lineup of BMWs and Teslas that gleamed like showroom models. Valet opened my door with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. My car didn't belong here. Neither did I. I'd pressed my navy dress. Simple and clean, no brand names, just lines that fit and a pair of pearl studs I'd worn since college. In my hand, a neatly wrapped box, a monogrammed pen set for Logan, my brother, turning 40. Small, thoughtful, exactly my lane. Their house had been transformed. String lights zigzagged above manicured lawns. A live jazz quartet played somewhere behind the hedges, and cedar plank salmon smoked the air. If you didn't know better, you'd think it was a wedding, but it wasn't. It was Logan Sullivan's birthday, and the Sullivans never missed a chance to make a headline out of a candle. At the front porch, a young man in a vest and two tight slacks blocked my path with a clipboard. Name Keira. Keira Sullivan. He frowned, scanning the guest list like it had betrayed him. Then he flipped the page and showed me Reynolds' family block, each member listed in sharp black font. Logan, Delora, Orville, even cousin Maxine and her kids. But me, +1, guest of family. I smiled because what else was there to do? Guess that's me, the lucky +1. He offered to write a new name tag. I declined and pinned guest over my heart. Inside, the house was a living catalog. Chandeliers dripping like frozen fireworks, silk tablecloths, gold-rimmed place settings, everything perfectly staged for the cameras, for appearances. I found my seat at table 18 tucked behind a column next to the swinging kitchen door. Servers rushed past with trays of appetizers, shouting hot plate as they brushed by my chair. My place setting was slightly off. The silverware crooked. The napkin, folded into a swan, sagged like it had given up. I straightened it, mostly to give my hands something to do. From my corner, I could hear everything. The toasts, the laughter, the hollow flattery. Logan was the star and everyone knew their lines. Delora, my mother, floated from group to group. Her smile lacquered in perfection. This is our son, she beamed. Regional VP in just 4 years. Isn't that something Orville? My father offered a curt nod when our eyes met. Not a greeting, just confirmation that I still existed. Then he turned away. I sipped water, held onto that cold glass like an anchor. Maybe they'd forgotten to list me. Maybe it was a clerical error, or maybe I wasn't meant to stand out here. Then the microphone crackled, and now, a few words from someone very special to us. Please welcome Keira Sullivan. I froze. I hadn't prepared anything. No one told me I'd be speaking. The applause was polite, uncertain. As I made my way to the stage, heels tapping too loud, I caught Delora's smile, polished, calculated, at the head table. Logan gave me a nod. Tessa rested a hand on his arm, her face unreadable. Orville lounged back, smirking like a man watching a rerun. There was no card waiting for me, no script, just a spotlight that was slightly too bright and a microphone stand. Center stage. The screen behind me flickered to life. A video montage. Logan in Little League, Logan at his science fair, high school graduation, shaking hands with the mayor, blueprints of his first big architecture project, voiceover, my mother's tone syrupy and proud. From the very beginning, Logan was destined for greatness. Then Orville chimed in. Some brilliance you don't teach. It's born in you. Not once did they mention the $75,000 loan I gave Logan when his startup was drowning, or the weekends I rebuilt his client decks after his laptop crashed, or sleeping on the showroom floor so the carpet installers wouldn't bail. I was erased, surgically. The video ended with gold cursive, "A legacy in the making." Applause. Enthusiastic for some, obligatory for most. Delora rose from her seat, microphone in hand, and now she announced, a few words from the ever-thoughtful little sister. There it was, my cue in their script. I leaned into the mic. It's a beautiful night. And Logan, you've always had a gift for making the room light up. Delora interrupted with a laugh, too loud, too rehearsed. Oh, honey, tell them. Wouldn't it be the perfect gift if you handed them the condo key tonight? The room froze. Not polite silence, airless, heavy. Someone coughed. A camera clicked. I looked at her, blinking. What? She smiled wider. You know, the condo in Austin? 2-bedroom. You're always on the road. Logan and Tessa are newlyweds. It just makes sense. Orville added, voice booming, "Come on. Keira, it's just a formality. You don't need all that space. It's not like you're using the guest room. It wasn't a request, it was a setup. Refusing would make me look selfish. Agreeing would strip me of the only thing they hadn't already taken." I gripped the mic tighter. This wasn't agreed on. A ripple through the crowd, gasps, whispers. Delora waved a dismissive hand. "Don't be dramatic, sweetie. It's just a gesture, a symbol of love." I wanted to list every sacrifice, every late payment I'd covered, every family bill that conveniently landed in my lap, but I didn't. Instead, I stared at her mask of charm, at the cold calculation beneath it. This was orchestrated, down to the moment. I placed the mic down. The soft thud echoed louder than words. As I turned to leave the stage, my pulse pounding. I didn't know yet that the worst was waiting for me by the dessert table. But in that moment, one thing was clear. I wasn't family, I was leverage. And leverage, once used, is disposable. I hadn't made it 3 steps off that stage when I saw him, Orville, my father, standing stiff by the dessert table, arms locked at his sides, jaw clenched so tight the veins in his neck looked ready to snap. He wasn't interested in the cake. He was watching me, and that was never a good sign. Behind him, Delora hovered with a champagne flute, whispering into her glass. Her words weren't meant for me, or maybe they were. She just embarrassed us, loud enough for me to hear, quiet enough to keep her halo intact. The weight of it settled in my chest, slow and suffocating. I scanned the room for an exit, for a face that might offer me an out. Tessa. She looked down, Logan, suddenly engrossed in his drink. Even the servers were careful not to meet my eyes. Then Orville moved. It was fast, almost casual. He reached for the neck of the champagne bottle like he was going for a refill, but he wasn't. The swing caught me above the temple, a dull, sick crack. Then white, not darkness, worse. A blinding, relentless flash, like staring straight into a camera flash that wouldn't die. My body staggered before my mind caught up. Heat bloomed at the side of my face. I felt it before I saw it. Blood, warm and crawling, down my jawline. The room gasped. Phones lifted. Not a hand reached out. "You ungrateful brat," Dolores spat, voice sharp, public, deliberate. "We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us." I couldn't even process it, couldn't think, but my body moved, palm pressed to the side of my head, trying to slow the bleed. The pain was sharp, sure, but the humiliation. That burned deeper. Someone whispered, "Did he just hit her?" Another voice, shaky, said, "Call the police." But no one stepped forward. Not for me. Jonah, my cousin, the one who always smelled like motor oil, shouted for help, but even he didn't move toward me. I straightened, slow, deliberate. My dress, pale blue, was streaked with red. The marble floor beneath me shimmered, a mirror I didn't want to look into. I caught Logan's eyes, or rather, the top of his head. He was staring at his plate like it held the answers to questions he didn't want to ask. Tessa didn't flinch. She didn't stand. Just rested her hand on Logan's, fingers light, detached. I walked, through the crowd, past the stairs, through the silence that screamed louder than any slap. I didn't run, didn't cry, didn't give them that. Outside, the air was cool, quiet, a strange, indifferent kind of mercy. I called an Uber with fingers that shook more from rage than fear. When the driver pulled up, he hesitated. "You all right?" "Ma'am," I just said. "Hospital. Fluorescent lights don't lie." In the ER, every reflection hit harder. The nurse asked if anyone was coming to stay with me. I shook my head. "No, just me." She didn't press. Probably wasn't the first time a woman showed up bleeding from family hands. I lay there, staring at toothpaste-colored ceiling tiles when it hit me. Not the pain, not the embarrassment, the clarity. That was the last time I'd ever show up for them. When I got back to my friend Leah's apartment that night, she'd left a towel on the bed, a cup of tea on the dresser. Small. Human kindnesses that stung more than the blow to my head. I didn't touch them. I just lay there, shoes still on, staring at the ceiling, trying to blink away the image of Logan looking down while I bled out in front of him. The next morning, reality hit with a vibration, a call from an unfamiliar number. "Hi, Mistine Sullivan. This is Jeanette from HomeQuest Realty. Just confirming our 2 p.m. walkthrough for your condo today." I sat up so fast my stitches ached. I didn't schedule anything. I said, "Oh," she replied, confused. "It's under your name. A Mr. Orville Sullivan, listed as co-signer." My stomach dropped. My heart didn't pound. It thudded, slow and heavy. They hadn't just tried to humiliate me. They were trying to steal my home. I hung up. For a moment, all I could do was sit there, elbows on my knees, gripping the bedsheet like it might keep me grounded. 1 week ago, Orville had accidentally taken my bag after a family dinner, handed it back with a sheepish grin. I didn't think twice. I should have. That's how they got the key. It wasn't clumsiness. It was a quiet, deliberate extraction. I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking. But I typed to Marlo Steinberg, a property attorney I'd met once, briefly at a networking brunch. Subject urgent. Body. I think my parents are trying to steal my home. By noon, I was at my condo with a locksmith. "Someone's been in and out," he said, tapping the scratches around the keyhole. Fresh. Like they didn't know exactly where the pins were. I had the locks changed, added a deadbolt, watched every turn of his screwdriver like it was surgery. That night, I didn't sleep. The condo smelled of metal and fresh paint, but it didn't feel safe. By morning, there was an email from Delora. Subject, "Let's talk. Keira. Body, we love you. This has gone far enough. Come by the house. Just us. Let's fix this. No apologies, no ownership, just control. Repackaged as concern." But part of me, some small, bruised part, still wanted to believe it was real. So, like a fool, I went. The house looked the same. Solar lights lining the walkway, orchids on the coffee table, framed photos of Logan's achievements, placed just so. But there was something new, photos of me. Ones I hadn't seen in years. Me and Logan as kids. High school debate finals. It was staged. Obvious. surgical. They wanted me to feel like I belonged, long enough to sign something. Orville handed me a manila envelope, just to make things clear. For family harmony, he said, as if that was a reasonable sentence. Inside was a deed transfer agreement, thick legalese cloaked as fairness. "You're asking me to give you my condo," Delora smiled. "It's just paperwork, sweetheart. A formality." I stood there, holding the paper like it might catch fire. "You set this up like reconciliation," I said quietly. "The photos, the cookies, the old stories. You're not inviting me home. You're inviting me to hand over the last piece of myself you don't already own." Orville's face didn't twitch. Logan said nothing, just stared at the floor. The golden boy dimmed in the corner of his own family's theater. I put the folder back on the table. I'm not signing anything. Not now. Not ever. This isn't family. This is theft with orchids on the side. I walked out. No one followed. And for the first time, I didn't care. That night, I didn't pace. Didn't cry. I sat in my kitchen, lights off, with the folder from Marlowe on the table. He'd found something. I held the deed to the house they were living in. Bought it years ago to save them from foreclosure. They never transferred it back. They just assumed it was theirs. I gave them a lifeline. They turned it into a noose. Funny how that works. I closed the folder, and for the first time in weeks, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The thing about justice, real justice, is it rarely comes with fireworks. It comes in envelopes. 3 days after I walked out of that staged family meeting, the sheriff delivered one to their door. No warning, no melodramatic confrontation, just paperwork. An official notice to vacate the house they'd been living in for over a decade, the same house I bought to save them once. They never signed it back, never bothered. They assumed it was theirs by right. That assumption ended now. I didn't see it happen. But Logan, ever the chronicler of family milestones, made sure the entire extended family did. He uploaded the security camera footage to the group chat like it was a cry for help. The video was grainy, shaky, but the moment was clear. Orville opened the door in a faded bathrobe, holding half a piece of toast. Delora stood behind him, frozen mid-sip from her porcelain mug. The sheriff handed them the envelope. His words didn't carry to the mic, but they didn't need to. Orville's face flushed deep crimson. He snatched the paper, skimmed it, then slapped it against the wall with a grunt of disbelief. The clip cut off just before Delora's mouth twisted into whatever insult she was about to hurl. I watched it once, then again, then closed the chat. I didn't feel triumph. I felt still. That night, I sat at my kitchen table. No music, no distractions, just the hum of the fridge and the quiet weight of finality settling over me. Logan and Delora had spent weeks painting me as the villain, a stitched-together narrative of betrayal, twisted into something that played well for sympathetic strangers online. Snippets of my voice, clipped just right. Photos where I looked cold, stiff, alone. We raised her with love. We never expected betrayal. That was the caption. Hashtag spilled beneath it. Now I'm family first. Ungrateful daughter. Broken hearts. They thought they'd won the narrative, but they underestimated how much documentation an overlooked daughter keeps. I didn't post a counter rant. No long-winded, here's my side thread. No dramatic TikTok callouts. I just opened Dropbox, dated wire transfers, emails confirming the $75K loan for Logan's firm, the original condo deed in my name, a voicemail from Delora herself, asking if I could just cover the mortgage this one time. I named the folder Truth, if you care to see it. I shared the link in the same family chat. No caption, no hashtags, no plea for sympathy. Then I shut the laptop. I wasn't interested in watching it spread. That wasn't the point. They had taken my silence for consent for too long. This time, my silence was choice. but cracks were forming. The first came from Tessa. Late that evening, my phone buzzed. A message, simple, direct. "They've done worse than you know." Attached was a photo, an old family album, spread open across Tessa's lap, page after page of family memories, birthdays, holidays, milestones. Not one photo of me. No baby pictures. No awkward teenage smiles. No graduation. Nothing. I stared at the image, my throat tightening, breath catching in that quiet, awful realization. They hadn't just overlooked me, they'd erased me. Systematically. Tessa's next message followed seconds later. "They've been rewriting you out of the family for years." I didn't know how far they'd gone. It was an admission, a confession wrapped in guilt. And somehow, that quiet acknowledgement struck deeper than Orville's champagne bottle ever could. I didn't reply right away. I just sat there, staring at the photo, letting it sink into the soft tissue of old wounds. This wasn't a rift. This was an extraction of identity, of history, of worth. The next morning, Dolores' smear campaign escalated. Another video, another chopped clip of my voice cracking under pressure. More hashtags, more spin, but this time, it didn't sting. Because this time, their narrative wasn't the only one circulating. Old co-workers, college friends, even distant family began sharing the folder. Receipts don't lie. The silence shifted. It stopped being suffocating. It became space, room to breathe, room to be. That afternoon, an unfamiliar number lit up my phone. Uncle Marvin. We hadn't spoken in years. Mom's older brother, the black sheep, the one who always said too much at Thanksgiving. His message was short. Saw the folder. About time someone told the truth. If you need a witness, I'm here. I stared at it for a long time. Maybe the house of glass didn't shatter in one blow. Maybe it cracked, piece by piece, with each person who finally chose to look. Later that evening, I drove past their house, not to gloat, not to watch, just to see. The moving truck was already there. Not theirs. Mine. The house stood hollow. Their belongings had been removed or abandoned. What remained were objects stripped of meaning, leftovers, remnants of a story they could no longer control. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. The final message came the next day. A thick envelope, cream-colored, my name in Tessa's handwriting. Inside, a baby shower invitation. And at the bottom, scrawled in her rushed, looping script, "I'm sorry. You deserved better." No embellishment, no excuses. Just the truth. I sat with that card for a long time. A younger version of me would have torn it up, burned it for closure, but I wasn't that girl anymore. Burning bridges for smoke that doesn't warm you is a fool's game. Instead, I wrote a check to a local women's shelter. In the memo line, I wrote, "In honor of a new beginning." I didn't attend the shower. Some cycles don't need fire to end. Sometimes, silence chosen, deliberate is its own revolution. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of chamomile, the soft folds of a swan-shaped napkin smoothed beneath my fingers. The same napkin I'd found hidden in their house. The same one I'd folded, hands trembling, trying to belong. It wasn't a trophy. It wasn't a scar. It was proof. Proof that I was always there, that I mattered, that they failed to erase what they never owned. Marlowe's final email came in at 9:17 p.m. Funds wired. Property sale finalized. You're free. I read it once, then again, and for the first time in months, I felt the ground beneath me, not shaky, not conditional, solid. I set the folded swan at the center of my table, not as a centerpiece, as a reminder they tried to take everything, and by doing so, gave me back the only thing that mattered: myself. The morning after Marlowe's email, the sun poured through my condo windows like it hadn't in years. Clean, quiet, undeniably mine. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. In front of me, at the exact center, was the swan napkin, soft, worn at the edges, the creases no longer crisp, but still standing. It used to be a symbol of trying, of folding myself into shapes for people who only saw utility, never presence. Now, it was something else, a small, quiet reminder. I existed. Not because they let me, not because they framed me in photos or listed me on guest charts, but because I said so. That afternoon, a new piece of mail arrived. No threats, no backhanded apologies, just the last thread tying me to their house, a final utilities statement in my name. I paid it, not out of obligation, not to keep a door open, out of closure. Some debts you clear for yourself. The rest, you leave behind. I spent the next few days cleaning out old storage bins, college notebooks, mismatched dishware, a photo album I'd made in high school. Flipping through its pages, I saw the younger me crooked teeth, that unfortunate floral prom dress, the brass band uniform too big in the shoulders. Proof. Every page whispered. You were always here, beneath the photos. I found a sticky note in my father's handwriting. Kez, knew you had it in you. Proud of you. Kid. Dad. The paper was yellowed. The ink had bled slightly at the edges. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I folded it once, tucked it back in the album, and whispered to the empty room. You did love me once. That doesn't excuse who you are now. It wasn't bitter. It was factual. Grief had given way to clarity. I wasn't mourning the loss of my family. I was releasing the version of them I'd been raised to believe in. That evening, my friend Amina dropped by. No grand announcement, just a knock and a familiar smile. She carried a bottle of wine in one hand and a tiny orchid in the other. You need more green in here, she said, setting it by the kitchen window like she belonged. We ate simple pasta, talked about nothing and everything, work, books, a TV show she insisted I'd love. The conversation flowed without sharp edges, without the need to prove or defend. At one point, my eyes drifted to the swan napkin on the table. It wasn't perfect. The edges had softened, but it didn't need to be impressive. It was enough. I raised my glass to building our own tables. Amina clinked hers against mine, and never begging for a seat again. That night, as I tidied up, I noticed something. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't the kind that presses on your chest, demanding you prove your worth. It wrapped around me gently, like a soft shawl. A week later, a package arrived, no return address. Inside was a slim, leather-bound photo album, smaller than the family volumes I remembered. On the first page, a single photo me and Logan, ages 8 and 10, sitting on a dock with fishing poles, our feet dangling over the water, a sticky note tucked inside. They can't erase what's real. Tessa. I exhaled slowly, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Some bridges don't need to burn. They simply close, and that's enough. I placed the album on my bookshelf, not hidden, not center stage. Just there, where it belongs. The news moved fast. The house sold within the month. Orville and Delora moved out quietly. No press releases, no Facebook rants. Their silence was telling. Logan resurfaced online, carefully curating a new narrative. Tessa, by contrast, stayed out of the spotlight. I didn't reach out. Neither did she. Some debts settle in understanding, not conversation. One afternoon, Uncle Marvin called, just wanted to say. He began, "You did good, kid." Took 'em long enough to trip over their own lies. I thanked him. He didn't linger. The call was brief, sincere, real. Weeks turned into months. Life didn't transform overnight, but it got quieter, cleaner. Mine. I donated a portion of the house sale to a local women's shelter. No public posts, no announcements, just a quiet check with a memo line that read, "In honor of choosing peace." I started small rituals. Sunday mornings with fresh flowers, evening walks without headphones, a new recipe each week. Not to fill a void, but to enjoy the space. There was no grand comeback moment, no viral redemption arc, just presence, just being. One evening, as golden hour draped my condo in soft light, I sat at the table again. The swan napkin was still there, frayed, imperfect, but standing. And I realized it wasn't a relic of trying to belong. It was a marker of what survived, of me. Sometimes, healing isn't loud. It's not a confrontation. It's not a viral video or a courtroom victory. Sometimes, it's simply choosing never to sit at their table again. And that's enough. That's freedom. Before this chapter closes, let me ask you, have you ever had to walk away from family to protect your soul? Drop your story in the comments. I read every one. Because some battles aren't fought in courts or crowds, they're won quietly, at your own table.